Now, inflation and deflation. Okay, we've got a little bit on this. Let's cover it. We've covered inflation, deflation a little bit before, but as I always mention, these economic lessons are pretty intertwined. Well, demand pull inflation, this is going to be a result of an increase in aggregate demand. Well, if all of a sudden, let's say supply is stagnant, but demand increases significantly, like everyone wants food or everyone wants more food, everyone wants more cars, well, that's going to cause inflation because you just see right here, demand goes up, that results in an increase in price, an increase in quantity demanded or output real GDP. So that's a way for inflation to happen is if all of a sudden demand significantly increases. And then obviously it's the opposite. If all of a sudden supply is the same but demand decreases, then that's deflation. What about cost push inflation? Well, if the supply significantly decreases and demand's the same, that's going to do the same. Push up the price. It's going to decrease the output of real GDP, and we are going to have inflation there. If we have an increase in the supply, that will cause deflation, right? Each item is costing less because there's more of them out there. Nothing crazy, just more of our graphs. Make sure you're, just check it in here, making sure you're familiar with the graphs and charts. Super important. And yeah, nothing crazy. Shouldn't be absolutely mind numbing. This economics, it's pretty nice. Nothing too up there. The money supply, something that just a little memorized here. So the money supply, this is a metric to understand what type of the right, like what money is out there. If we refer to the M2 money supply, the M3 money supply, it's liquidity. So the most liquid, I mean, these are all pretty liquid. So the M1, it's like levels, the tiers of money. So this is coins, currency, checking accounts, travelers checks. If if you have all of these, or I mean, you could have some of them. This is your M1 money supply. I mean, there's an M1 money supply for the whole economy. The M2 money supply is everything in the M1 tier plus certificates of deposit greater than $100,000 plus money market deposits plus mutual fund accounts. I mean, you don't really need to, certificates of deposit less than 100. Like, this really is not critically important. Just like a general understanding of this, I'd say is what you need to know. M3 is both M1 and M2 plus certificates of deposit greater than 100,000. Nothing critically important. I mean, just knowing what these are. So if you see them on the test, you're familiar, and you say, okay, I kind of know what the M1, M2, and M3 money supply are. Know that the M1 is the most stringent and it includes the least. And this is very much like super liquid. You could use any of this at a moment's notice. Certificates of deposit, right? That's when you give your bank some money and you get a pretty low interest rate, but it's super secure. It might take a few days, or I mean, it's usually locked in, right, for a certain period of time. But if you needed to take it out right now for a little bit of a loss, it still would take a few days, whatever. These others might take a few days, but this is instantaneous. Certificates of deposit greater than 100. Yeah, it might take longer. That's kind of the general consensus of what is going on here, right? So nothing too astronomically difficult. Just kind of get an idea there. So this is the money market and the money supply. So MS stands for the money supply. This line here, this isn't a chart you need to know as much as supply and demand, but just kind of showing you what happens. This is the quantity of money in the economy, right? In the market. This is equilibrium. So this is interest rate. Equilibrium interest rate is where it meets the demand for money. So as the money supply increases, as the Federal Reserve prints more money, and the demand for money stays stagnant, well, the equilibrium interest rate goes down because there's more money in the market, right? People don't need to borrow money as much, so interest rates are going down. It's supply and demand, but with money. This is literally just the supply and demand chart with an up and down vertical line because the amount of money is set by the Federal Reserve, so it's inelastic, right? And as this increases or decreases, we're going to have a change in interest rates. This is monetary policy. As we mentioned, this is set by the Fed. This is how it works. This is how interest rates are all determined and all that. Pretty good stuff. Nothing crazy here. Just get that concept down and you'll be good to go. All right, a little bit more on the money supply and interest rates. Well, here we go. What is the real interest rate? This is the nominal interest rate minus the inflation rate. So that's how you get real interest. It's when you essentially back out just the denoted rate, the normal rate, minus the inflation rate. So if the nominal interest rate is 10% and the rate of inflation is 4%, the real interest rate would be 6%. Nothing crazy, just another little formula to understand this real. So anything real or effective or actual, those are generally the rates and the formulas you want to use, like effective interest rate. That tells the story of how it really is. This takes out inflation. Let's see a question. Well, a company has a capital project with before tax cash inflows in real dollars that are expected to be $200,000 within 2 years. The inflation rate is expected to be 6% each year during that period. We need to figure out the before tax cash inflow expressed in nominal dollars. Let's take a look at that there. The inflation rate is 6% per year. Calculate how much a nominal amount will increase due to inflation, which we know inflation is simply just a price increase. We're going to multiply it by 1 plus the percent. All right, so this is like a growth rate similar to that process. $200,000 increased by 6% for 2 years. $200,000 times 1.06 times 1.06. That's just normal compounding. That gets us to $224,720. This is the same math as if we had to compound the growth of a stock by 6% each year. And this is all before tax. We're not taking into account tax, which is nice. We don't have to worry about it. So this is taking into account inflation. So this is the process, the normal process in real dollars. Because what is the real interest rate? It's just taking into account inflation. That's all it's doing. And in this case, we want to back out inflation because that gives us the interest rate that really is there, because inflation is just the price increase. I mean, I could go on about inflation. It's the price increases from more money printing or anything like that. And we want to account for inflation, right, as time goes on. Because yes, this capital project is everything assets wise goes up with inflation, and debt stays fixed. So all of the effects of inflation are playing a role here in this example.
Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.